All right, there we go. That is one of my favorite lines in almost any song anywhere. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Lyrics Matters. Man, today I have got a great song for you. I'm Andy. On this channel, what we like to do is we like to grab songs that I think are awesome, that have spectacular lyrics, and we break them down, we comment on them, we interpret them. Hopefully, we don't get some copyright strikes on some of this stuff. But so we check this out. I like music that happens to be a little more thoughtful, usually seems to fall into the realm of singer-songwriter or folk or alt country and things in that genre. But we do expand outside of that sometimes as we find songs that are spectacular and lyrics that are spectacular. So today I am going to do Justin Townes Earle, the Saint of Lost Causes. So I'm so disappointed. I started getting into Justin Townes Earle about a year ago, and then he died. And I hate that when that happens, right? So apparently he had some drug issues and stuff. And you just start getting this musician that you find all this material that they have, and you're like, oh my god, this is awesome. And then lo and behold, they're gone, unfortunately. So this is the Saint of Lost Causes. I'm so excited about this one. There is a line in here that when I heard it the first time, I heard the song. It's kind of got this cool track going, and then it had this line. I'm like, it stopped me in my tracks. It was one of these things. I was like, oh my god, that is one of the coolest lines I've ever heard in music, and it's so relevant today. Like, depending on who you are or what you're into outside of music, like, this thing could fit into politics, it could fit into religion, it can fit into all kinds of, and depending on which side of the aisle you're on, it can matter. Republicans would say it's about Democrats would say it's about Republicans. It's a great line. So I can't wait to get to that, and we'll talk about it when we get there. So I'm not musician. I'm not a professional musician, not an amateur musician, but I am a lyrics nerd. So hopefully you are too. If you are, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But let's go ahead and get started. And I'll try to only pause the music only a couple times to talk about it, and we'll go from there.
I'm a bad dream, not a nightmare, I'm too pretty for that. Let's just say I'm the last thing you wanna see coming. I'm the reason they say watch it back. But for so long, I was like a wounded hound, back to a chain link fence. The world at large was just a big mean kid, poking me through the fence with a stick. Ain't nobody going back. It takes a whole lot of hurt. There lies one of life's biggest lessons, ain't got nothing to do with desert. Just pray to the Saint of Lost Causes.
All right, so there we go. That's the kind of the first verse there. So some cool lines in that one, right? I'm a bad dream. I'm not a nightmare because I'm too pretty for that, right? As the narrator here, right? He's talking about, hey, I'm a bad guy. I'm not a guy you want to see. You're gonna need to watch your back, but I'm also not a monster, right? Which is kind of interesting that he's kind of throwing out there. And he goes in with this imagery, right, of a dog backed into the chain link fence, and you got this kid poking you with the stick, right? In my mind, that's a great image to help convey, or metaphor, whatever you want to call it, of what he's feeling, right? For so long I was a wounded hound backed into a chain link fence, right? And you just got a kid poking you. You can't get away. You're backed into the fence, and the kid's poking you through the back of the fence, and that's the world is just beating him up. So, looking back now that Justin Townes Earle has passed away with I think it was a drug overdose. That he had some challenges, and he had some demons and stuff that he was kind of dealing with. So this is probably pretty autobiographical. But then he does say a couple other things on here, right? It takes a whole lot of hurt. Ain't nobody going back. Takes a whole lot hurt, and therein lies one of life's biggest lessons. It has nothing to do with deserve, meaning he's kind of saying people don't get what they deserve, right? It's um, that's a lesson. Things are not fair. People don't get what they deserve, probably for good or bad, and that's a lesson we all got to eventually learn. So that's an interesting one. So this next section here, and I won't stop it. I'll let the section finish and I talk about it. But like I said, there's a line in here. It just is so awesome, right? So let's go ahead and listen to it.
It's a cool world. It ain't hard to understand. You got your sheep, you got your shepherds, got your wolves amongst men. It can be hard to tell. Might find a wolf in shepherd's clothes. But now and then, gonna find sheep in amongst all them troubled souls. No more folks is most afraid of the wolf. If you really stop and think, throughout time between a wolf and a shepherd, do you think has killed more sheep? Now there's nothing can be done. It's just the way it goes. First you get back, then you get me, and then there's nothing left but to grow cold and pray to the saint of lost causes.
All right, there we go. That is one of my favorite lines in almost any song anywhere. So I'll set it up. So he starts this section where he's talking about it's a cruel world. It's hard to understand. You've got sheep and you've got shepherds, right? That's a concept we're all pretty familiar with, right? And you've got wolves amongst men. So he's laying out these kind of three parties, right? You've got the sheep, you've got shepherds, and you've got wolves. And you've got the classic metaphor there: the shepherds taking care of the sheep and keeping the wolves away. But then he goes on to kind of say it's more complicated than that, right? That's an oversimplistic view or metaphor for what he's describing, because you've got a wolf in a shepherd's clothing, right? And you've got sheep mixed in amongst troubled souls, right? So he's acknowledging, hey, you have this kind of three-way kind of relationship of wolves and sheep and men and shepherds. He goes, but it's not as clear cut. And that's interesting because you see people who are followers and leaders, and that's kind of what he's talking about there. But here's the cool line, and this is, like I said, this mind blown, stop you in your tracks kind of stuff. Most folks are afraid of the wolf, and if you really stop and think, throughout time between a wolf and a shepherd, who do you think has killed more sheep? Like, that is an awesome line. If you've never heard this song before, if this is your first time, pay attention to that line. That is a cool line. And that plays into one of the cool things I love about music and lyrics. Like, that's not just about lyrics, right? That plays into everything, right? Think about the U.S. politics today. Everybody on every side thinks everybody else is has this evil shepherd and all. Like, it's so messed up. And here it's like, hey, you think that shepherd is protecting you, right? But they're not, right? They're the ones that are maybe doing you the most harm. And again, depending on if you're in, like I said, politics, religion, anything, like, everybody thinks that applies to the other side and doesn't necessarily apply to their side. And I think that's an awesome kind of line to just, wait a minute, take a step back. Let's take a look at this. Throughout time, who's killed more sheep? The wolf that you're afraid of, or the shepherd that you follow, right? And I think that is probably more true today than it has ever been, regardless of where you stand on any of those kind of controversial issues. So that is my favorite line. Like I said, stop me in my tracks. Hopefully it's yours too. Let's go ahead and kind of go through the rest of this.
Some will say I've got no feeling, no heart, and surely no shame. Truth is that this has been with me so long that I just admit I kinda like the pain. How many encounters you ever had? Better yet, how many wolves you ever seen? You got about as much chance of seeing one of them as you do running into me. Still take nothing for granted. Might live on the best block in Beverly Hills. Be sure you lock up tight at night. You know poor folks ain't got nothing to steal. Just pray to the saint of lost causes.
All right, so there you go. That's the end of kind of the lyrical portion of the song. And kind of there at the end, he's kind of flushing out the idea a little bit more. Like, how many wolves have you ever really seen? You don't know, right? You don't know, and depending on the metaphor, the context, somebody may be a wolf in one environment and not in another. But it's kind of saying you may not recognize all that stuff. You're not going to always run into those people any more than you're going to run into, either it's the narrator or Justin Townes Earle. Um, but at the same time, you can't take it for granted, right? Keep your guard up. And he was like, you live on the best block in Beverly Hills, um, but those are people that are getting robbed because that's where the stuff is, right? You may think, hey, I live in this great area, everything's around me is awesome, and I don't have to think about those kind of things. But the reality is that that's where the wolves are going, right? So that's an interesting way to end that song. So again, there's Justin Townes Earle. Again, my favorite line in almost any song throughout time between a wolf and a shepherd. Who do you think has killed more sheep? Right? That just is. It is a multi-layered line of a song, right? That applies to so many different contexts. So super cool. Again, Justin Townes Earle, again, passed away about a year or so ago. Very disappointed. He's got a handful of other songs that I'm thoroughly in love with that are both lyrically interesting and musically interesting as well. So, hey, if you liked this interpretation or my commentary on his song, give me a thumbs up below. I'd appreciate it. If you didn't like it, don't do the thumbs down thing. Just tell me in the comments and we can chat it out. If you've got other suggestions, you've got other ideas for other songs from this artist or another, let me know down in the comments. I'm always looking for great new stuff, and because I just enjoy doing this and it's fun, and I get to explore music and have fun with it. So, with that said, thank you everybody for listening. Check out some of my other stuff, and hopefully I'll see you next time.